criticized the United States, accusing it of military aggression in the Caribbean. He has further stated that the U.S. is isolating itself with these actions. Let's listen in.
Hoy por hoy, la realidad es que se quieren aislar y están produciendo una agresión militar en el Caribe. Y he pedido a todos los cancilleres caribeños que nos reunamos, porque lo que suenan ya son los misiles. Y una guerra represiva interna en las ciudades norteamericanas contra una etnia, varias etnias que son las latinoamericanas. Mientras Estados Unidos no quiera juntarse con el mundo, podemos juntarnos.
If Colombian president's claim is verified, it would involve Colombia in the broader U.S. campaign against drug trafficking vessels, which has primarily focused on Venezuela. Meanwhile, responding to the claims, the White House has urged President Petro to retract his statement and emphasize the importance of maintaining productive dialogue between the two nations. Additionally, in Bogotá, residents have reacted to their president's comments. Some have expressed concern over the impact on Colombian citizens, while others have criticized the president for making statements without verifying the facts. Let's listen in.
Digamos que inquieta a la población. Eso puede ser, mañana pueden ser hijos de cualquier familiar o pueden ser familiares que se encuentren en esas zonas. Entonces, por supuesto que dolor de patria por la pérdida de esas personas que son compatriotas, y preocupante también todos los hechos a nivel de lo que está ocasionando la intervención de Estados Unidos pues allí en el Caribe.
Totalmente, el presidente debería, antes de salir a hacer declaraciones en Twitter, verificar con las autoridades colombianas, con inteligencia, antes de decir algo. Y pues así ha sido todo el gobierno, sale a decir y a desmentir cosas sin tener las bases necesarias.
Yo digo que Petro debe pues de tratar de llevar la cosa lo más pacífico posible, porque aquí se hablan de acuerdos de paz, se habla de un proceso de paz, pero también pienso que él debe de hacer respetar la vida de los colombianos, independientemente de que el conflicto se haga más grande. Igual eso yo pienso que centra como un precedente ante las personas, ante el mundo.
Now for this discussion, we go back to Professor Andrew Latham. He's a professor of international relations, joins us live from Minneapolis. Thank you, Professor, for staying with us. How do you view President Petro's accusations of U.S. military aggression in the Caribbean, and what steps should be taken to address these concerns?
When I heard this news break, I immediately thought of the parallels between the Indian case over tariffs and this particular case over Colombian civilians. In both cases, the underlying relations, U.S.-India, U.S.-Colombia, are really tight, really close, but something has happened which has introduced turbulence into the relationship. And I won't rehash the entire India-U.S. tariff thing because your viewers are already well aware of that. But what they might not be aware of is the fact that Colombia has been a non-NATO ally of the United States since 2022. A free trade agreement was struck between the two countries in 2012. There's a large Colombian diaspora in the United States. The underlying relationship between Colombia and the U.S. is close and tight and strong. But we see now the Trump administration's anti-narcotics campaign in the Caribbean escalating horizontally. And what I mean by that is it was focused on Venezuela. Now Colombia is drawn in. One wonders what the next country to be drawn in will be. So that's a concern. And also, President Petro is not particularly friendly towards the United States and is more friendly towards Venezuela. And so that kind of regional political dynamic, geopolitical dynamic is kicking in as well. Will this end the U.S.-Colombian relationship? No. Will it introduce some turbulence in the short to medium term? Yes. Does this embolden Petro in terms of him taking Colombia in a different direction over the longer term? Perhaps.
And with President Petro accusing U.S. military of aggression in Caribbean, do you think this marks a shift in Latin America's attitude towards U.S.?
I think yes is the short answer. Will it be deep? Will it be broad? Will it be enduring? That I'm not sure. That's based on more fundamental issues than Donald Trump's policy with respect to this or that. However, U.S. gunboat diplomacy in the region conjures up deep, deep memories in that part of the world, which for 100+ years was subject to something called the Monroe Doctrine, in which the United States claimed the right to use its naval forces to shape the politics in the region so that no external power could get a foothold, whether that be Germany in the 30s or whomever. So those memories have been revitalized, and that can't help Latin American relations in the long run.
And lastly, Professor, in light of the statements from President Petro, how should the U.S. approach its relationship with Colombia or other Latin American countries, such as you mentioned Venezuela, that are becoming increasingly critical of U.S.'s interventionist policies?
They are, and part of the issue here is not narcotics. That's been an issue for a long time, and there are ways of dealing with that other than shooting boats out of the water. We're in a different era of geopolitics now, great power competition, and what's really motivating Trump and his advisors is not the narcotics issue. That's just wallpaper. The real issue here is that China and Russia are, in his perception, gaining a foothold in Latin America via Venezuela and perhaps via Colombia as well. And that's not welcome in an era of great power competition. Again, memories, reflexes, as it were, of the Monroe Doctrine. The United States doesn't want other great powers having a massive role to play in the Caribbean or Latin America. And this might be seen as steps to exclude China and Russia from that part of the world, not just as policing narcotics.
Thank you very much, Professor Andrew Latham, for joining us and sharing that insight. Now we move on. French President Emmanuel Macron is close to naming a new prime minister amid a deepening political crisis. Public frustration is rising, especially over the controversial pension reform that proposes raising the retirement age to 64 years. The crisis has blocked the budget's approval and caused major political divisions, with far-left and far-right parties boycotting talks and demanding Macron's resignation or new elections. Outgoing Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu says a path to passing the budget exists, but uncertainty remains. The situation underscores serious challenges to President Macron's leadership and the stability of France's government. Let's listen into some of the reactions.
Déjà, d'avoir un Premier ministre qui reste en place, je pense que ce serait un bon départ. Et puis après, évidemment, il faut que les choses avancent et qu'il y ait des réformes qui soient mises en place. Je pense qu'il faut stabiliser le budget.
Il faudrait que le président annonce sa démission, pas tout de suite, dans un certain temps, que les gens puissent élaborer des programmes et que les Français puissent de nouveau s'exprimer dans les urnes et donner de la légitimité au gouvernement. Aujourd'hui, les institutions sont très endommagé. Il est urgent de...
Now we move on to Africa. In Sudan, at least 13 people were killed after an artillery attack struck a mosque in the besieged city of El Fasher. The strike, carried out by the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, known as RSF, took place on the 9th of October. One resident has said that after the shelling, 13 bodies were pulled from under the rubble and laid to rest. Another survivor has recounted that around 70 families had been sheltering inside of the mosque after the forces entered their homes. The attack also left at least 20 people wounded and caused heavy damage to the building. This is all we have time.